Bonjour mes amis et bienvenue au Pendu dans la Lune. Hello friends. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you probably know from my attempt at a French introduction to this video that this is my series in which I use Tarot de Marseille adjacent, or antique Italian decks to answer a question that I've pulled from my larger, primarily Rider-Waite-Smith based tarot spread of the week. So I just did one of those. I did a large spread for the week about how we can live more intentionally in the coming week. And the title for that one was originally the new one, but I think I'm going to call it Privilege, because that seems to be the predominant theme for the video, is what we do with privilege. And so, if you haven't seen that video, I suggest going to take a look at it. I'll put a card up here for you to click on and hop over and see that video so you understand where this question came from and maybe even understand a little bit more about the interpretation of this reading that I'm about to do for you. So there is that link up there. And the question that I pulled out of that was, how do we move on by staying in the present moment? Does that make sense? How do we move on by staying in the present moment? There's a push me, pull you to that. There's a tension in that. Now, we want to move on, but we also know we need to be in the present moment. We can't move to the future. The future doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is the present moment. But how do we move on staying here in the present moment? I know that, so that's a kind of a paradoxical question, moving on and staying in. So I asked that question and I got a 3-card spread for you. I'll show you the question written out. It's not a difficult question. And then I'll show you the spread and then we'll talk about it. Here we go. Very nice spread, right? This is the first time I've used these cards in one of my spreads because it's a brand new deck to my collection. This is the Vieville Tarot, the Jaques Vieville Tarot, created in Paris around 1650, I believe. And this is a redrawing by the wonderful creators at Artisan Tarot. And I just did an unboxing and a side-by-side comparison with this one and a facsimile deck. And if you want to see that video, the walkthrough of the whole deck, I'll put a link in the description box below. Because I think I can only do one card, and my card is for the other tarot spread for this week. So in the link, I'll give you a way to get to the walkthrough of this deck if you're interested. Also, below there will be a link for Artisan Tarot so that you can go to their shop and perhaps buy this deck for yourself. This really is a beautiful redrawing of the Vieville Tarot, which is one of my favorites. I keep saying this. I hope they're not annoyed. If you're seeing this, Artisan Tarot, beautiful people, I really am looking forward to the Tarot of Paris, and I really, really hope it comes out sometime soon. That's the other one I'm looking forward to. Because it's another beautiful deck, but it's really, really difficult to see in a facsimile form. Yeah, even more difficult to see what you're looking at than the Vieville. So I'm really looking forward to that. And here we go with the reading for this week. What did we have? We had, from left to right, we had the 4 of Discs, the Page of Cups, and then the 3 of Cups. Yeah, no swords, no wands, no bâton, no épée. That's okay. And it's interesting that this Page of Cups is here in the center, because the Page of Cups was, I believe, the central figure of my larger spread for this week. So this figure is important, and you see that the page is moving from the 4 of Discs to the 3 of Cups. So that's the direction we're going to read this in. And so we'll start with the 4 of Discs. Beautiful card. Lovely redrawing. We've got the shield in the center with blue and red, which is a kind of yin-yang. It's a kind of fire-water opposites meeting of elements, right? In the shield, but it's a very stable card. Fours are stable, are stability. After the first burst of breaking through of the three, then we find our stability and our structure from our development. So what is the Four of Coins? What is the Four of Discs? It can be conservation, but conservation in a positive sense. Not conservative, liberal kind of political conservation, but conservation. A lot of liberals are conservative. What does that mean? Well, let's conserve our resources. Let's conserve the planet. Let's conserve the forests. Now, it's taking care of the resources that we have. It could be frugality. We don't want to be spendthrifts. We don't want to toss money away. We want to maintain our material and physical stability. That could be physical, like our bodies and our health, right? We want healthy, strong bodies, healthy, strong environments for ourselves and for our families and our friends and our people. That's the Four of Coins, but especially ourselves and our families. Stability, conservation, health, home. But the order, the working order of this Four of Discs, of coins, is not to prevent growth. It's not a greed card. Now the Four of Discs in the Waite Smith, the card drawn by Pamela Coleman Smith and supervised by Arthur Waite from the Golden Dawn tradition, which is of course much later than the Tarot de Marseille or this deck, the Vieville, or antique Italian decks like the Visconti, Sforza. In that card, in the Pamela Coleman Smith card, we've got the idea of greed, of miserliness, and that's not what this card is. That's not that kind of conservation, the greedy conservation. It's a conservation that is flowing, that is in motion, that is that doesn't let the resources stagnate and stay still. It allows for cycles of things moving in and out, a healthy stability, an interactive, a transactive stability of like if you imagine atoms. I don't know if this is going to be too weird for you, but if you imagine atoms that are near each other, atoms have electrons. Now, one atom doesn't keep hold of the electrons in its own shell and you can't have any of my electrons, that's my electron, don't get any closer to me. Now, there are some elements that repel each other that way, but elements that can get close. And they conserve the number of their electrons. Otherwise, they start breaking apart. They conserve the number of their electrons, but it's not always the same electrons. They share their electrons. My electron goes off to you and I get one of yours. Yeah, there's a flow, there's a passing through and off to and receiving, and there's a system of energetic flow that if that energetic flow were to stop, the whole universe would break apart. Now that's not what this Four of Coins is. It's not the putting our stuff in a box and locking the top. Now there's an ecosystem of resources, but stability within that. Yeah, it's tradition, it's honor, it's reputation. That is where we want to start from. We want to have our base. If we don't have our base, it's difficult to move forward. So, how do we move on? Well, first we have a stable base that is an ecosystem, that is not like something that is locked tight and impenetrable. It's porous, but stable. We want to create that in order to move forward as the Page of Cups. And you'll notice that in this Page of Cups, this page's cup is open. The cap to the cup is off, which is interesting because in this deck, the king's cup, as I recall, is also covered. The Queen's cup is covered in almost all decks that I know, but usually the King's cup is open. In this deck, the King's cup is closed, and in other decks, the Page's cups are covered. This one is wide open. The cap is off. The Page is wearing a hat, so we can't confuse this thing with the Page's hat easily. We could force ourselves to confuse it, but I don't think it's easy to confuse. I think this cap is very clearly the cap to the cup. The flagon with the dragon is the brew which is true. The cap to the cup. So this Page's cup is open. In some decks, the Page is really unsure, wants to fall in love but pulls back, wants to do but hides himself, that kind of immaturity, right? This Page is much less immature, and this Page actually, if we look at the face, has a little bit of age on them, which I like. But still, this Page is a dreamer. Is sensitive, accepts their intuition, and maybe accepts the intuition more easily because their cup is open. Yeah? That intuition which flows from our emotions and our unconscious, of the cup of our unconscious. When the Page has the cap on it or has covered it with a cloth, it's more difficult to receive that, right? This Page, very easy to receive. But still inexperienced with love, inexperienced with their mystical potential, or maybe out of the habit of interacting with things mystically or emotionally, with being in love and expressing love. Maybe the Page is inexperienced because they're new or because they haven't done it for a long time, but they still have all that potential to grow, to evolve, to become, to experience. There's this whole emotional, mystical, and intuitive world that they have open to them that tempts them and may frighten them a little bit, may not frighten them as much in this deck as in some others. So this Page is also trying to understand their own feelings and the feelings of others, which again is reminiscent of the Page of Cups in the larger spread that I read this week. So this Page who is inexperienced, who is still fresh and new, maybe eternal beginner's mind, is moving forward from their stability into something fresh and something new and something emotional, and the Three of Cups. This Three of Cups could be new friends, but it could be a new community. It could be a birth of love, like a romantic love. Now, the birth of fresh, fervent, and passionate love, of idealization of the one that we are in love with. But it might not even be a person. It might be a thing. It might be a passion that we have, like art or music, or a new passion for baking, or a new passion for cleaning the house. Maybe we fall in love with cleaning the house, all anew. Maybe we fall in love with selling this new product, all anew. And we have passion for that, and it's fresh. And maybe we're inexperienced because it is new. But that's how we move on, right? We move on by experiencing the new and recognizing our inexperience, but enjoying it and relishing the newness of life in the eternal now. Maybe we're working on a common project with other people that is not based on resources so much, but based on an emotional connection and mutual interest. Maybe we're collaborating on some artistic production of art or music or performance or dance or something. Or maybe we're all interested in some game or some sport. Or maybe we're all interested in some business, but not so much because of resources, but because of how it makes us feel. Have you ever been in that kind of a business where it's you get an emotional high from interacting and working on it together? That could be this as well. If you're a tarot deck creator, maybe you're creating a new deck and you're falling in love with this deck as you're creating it. And maybe you're working with other people. Maybe you're collaborating on making this happen. So the question, how do we move on by staying in the present moment? Well, we move on by making sure that our present moment is stable. So we have a launching, an eternal launching pad. We have an internal lifting off point that moves with us as we move forward, as pages of cups, open to experiencing, open to our intuition, open to falling in love, open to our sensitivity of what's out there and exploring what's out there in the now, not in the future, in the now. And realizing the potential co-creative, passionate, fresh, fervent, uninhibited, emotional expression of creativity in whatever field, be it romantic, be it artistic, be it financial, be it business, be it familial, within the family interpersonal interactions. All of this is possible. And that's how we do it, by opening ourselves up and realizing that we don't know it all. And we're discovering, and there's so much to discover, and that so much to discover in the present moment is new, is fresh. We can take that filter of always, I've seen it all before, off of our eyes. Just like this page has taken the cap off of their cup. So that's how we do it. Does that make sense? Have you ever realized in the moment that yes, I've been here before, but it just feels so new and fresh and alive. Maybe you've fallen in love and you were in that honeymoon period of, not going on a honeymoon, but that honeymoon period of new love, and so everything else seems to come alive. We don't need to be dependent on falling in love with a brand new person every day to feel that. And I think that's what this series of 3 cards here is trying to tell us, is trying to remind us of. So friends, what do you think? If you're still here, please hit the thumbs up button so that YouTube knows that you and other people can get something out of this. It helps draw eyes to the channel. Hit the subscribe button and the alarm bell if you haven't already, so that you get notifications of when I upload videos. And I tend to do 3 a week these days. I did 1 already. Actually, I've done 2 this week. This is the 3rd. Actually, I've done 4 this week. That's right, I forgot. I did 1 earlier this week as well, the walkthrough of this deck. So, this is the 4th video. Get notifications. And comment below. I'd love to know what you think. What do you think of this deck? It's a beautiful deck. What do you think of the deck? What do you think of this reading? Would you have read this spread differently? I'd love to hear from you. And if you want a private reading from me, in the description box below, my email address also exists. thehangedmaninthemoon@gmail.com. Send me an email and we can get you a reading. Tarot de Marseille, Antique Italian, Tarot de Marseille adjacent, Rider-Waite Smith, 3-card spread, Celtic Cross, any question you're interested in exploring, I'm there for you. We can work it out. Okay? So friends, now, as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.